I don't give a fig. We've just heard the reading of the parable of the fig tree. And, well, sometimes I think it must be pretty obvious why the fig tree is not bearing figs. But sometimes the parables remind me of jokes where we get a twist at the end and it gives us an unexpected thought for an ending. If the landowner was Donald Trump and the fig tree was a business or a manager, Trump would just say, "You're fired." And that would be the end of it. Tear up the tree, measure it only by results, judge only by its productivity. Get rid of it if there are no signs of quick success. Deal with the problem with an axe, and the sooner the better. In today's society, we're increasingly addicted to quick fixes when we encounter problems, and we often react without thinking. We want to deal with them as quickly as possible. We don't want to suffer through the lack of figs. But let's run to the store and get our figs that way. Anything to fix the problem. Problems like unemployment or environmental degradation or, closer to home, poor attendance at the senior center or lack of new members at the Legion. We look for quick fixes to these problems, new programs, experts, or guest speakers who will hand us the magic wand that we can wave to make our problems disappear. And when the problems don't go away, when they get worse, we start to panic, and that makes the situation even worse. There are two kinds of problems, or shall I say two kinds of challenges. One type is structural, and the other is adaptive. Now, structural challenges are the easiest to deal with, and the solutions are straightforward. The church is leaning over. The steeple might fall down, and the building's unsafe. That kind of challenge is easy to find solutions for. Bulldoze the building, or fix it up. Once we've decided on the solution, then we go for strategies to implement it. And eventually we'll get it right. So let's fix up the building by applying for heritage status, which will allow us to access grants and funding to restore it. And that's what we did in our building. Straightforward and easy. Sort of. But sometimes, when we have too many structural problems, the solution is not as easy as we think. And that might be a clue that we are not dealing with structural problems. An adaptive challenge is not as easy to solve. We often try to solve it with the way we solve the structural problem. Throw money at it and that'll fix everything. Adaptive challenge sneaks up and surprises us unexpectedly. Now, the best example of adaptive challenge that I've ever heard was given to us by Dr. David Suzuki. He said, if you put a frog in a pot of water and put the pot on the stove and turn the water on, turn the heat on, the frog will swim happily, unconcerned about the change in water temperature until it's too late. The frog needs to jump out of the water, but thinks to itself, things aren't too bad, or I can handle it, or this is someone else's problem, not mine. We can be very frog-like, ignoring our discomfort or hoping it will go away instead of looking at the solution clearly and searching for an answer. We don't want to get out of the pot of water. It's comfy and familiar. Let's grab a few ice cubes and throw them in. That's a quick fix. Or maybe we should build and design fans to cool ourselves. That's a short-term fix. Or maybe we panic and thrash around and don't get anywhere. Maybe we need to build a stick long enough to reach the dial and turn down the heat. Maybe we need to look for a different container of water to move into. Get out of the pot of boiling water! If we don't focus on adaptive challenges, what we end up with is frog soup. The reality is that the United Church is facing challenges, and they're not structural challenges. We measure ourselves against neighboring churches and we worry, why are there not more young people? Why are we struggling to pay our bills? Why is it so hard to get volunteers for different jobs? These are big problems. Let's add a rock band, let's add PowerPoint, let's get charismatic preachers in, or let's get really great music or old-time religion. Let's get a specialist to come in. let's figure out what we can do, and we go for short-term fixes, and they don't always work in the long term. The reality is complicated. There are less young people around. We know that because we're constantly hearing about another school in our community being closed. It's really tough. There's less job security. People are moving to where the jobs are. They're not staying in one place for 10 years and putting down roots and building community. Even the families that we have are different. We might have single moms, single dads, 2 moms, 2 dads, and multicultural families coming in the doors. Maybe even refugee families from around the world. Volunteers are hard to come by because 80% of moms have to work in order to put food on the table. And that's where most of our volunteers came from in the 50s. And since people started dropping out of the church in the 60s, families are growing up where even the grandparents didn't go to church. It's not just Athabasca United Church that's struggling with this cultural shift. The Masons are worried about the aging of their membership. Charities are becoming increasingly professional, and that increases their cynicism. The Seniors Lodge is wondering how to get more people to come to their activities and have fun. Everything has changed. Now, we could sit back and bemoan the situation. We could go desperately searching for the magic wand. Or maybe we could look at the parable of the fig tree to find a better way. Because sometimes we have to look at the environment that we're in. That's what the gardener says. Look at the soil in which this tree is planted in. What's needed? The roots of the United Church go deep. The Book of Praise, our Presbyterian music, our Methodist book. We have deep roots. They're rooted in Scripture, justice and compassion. They look towards both head and heart. They're centered in a belief in God. They dream of a day when all may be one. And let's give us some time to help deepen our roots. Let's get grounded in Scripture. Let's remember our heritage of fighting for justice issues and how we were on the forefront of movements that fought alcohol abuse, that worked to get the vote for women, Medicare for all, and the first apology in Canadian history to our Indigenous brothers and sisters. Let us be patient and nurturing, trusting in God's time, and rolling up our sleeves to get digging and fertilizing, and see what the fruits of our labor will be. Let's use all the different tools of technology in appropriate ways, however they fit our community, because our community and our children are exposed to many different things. Let us look for signs of hope that with patience and God's grace, we can become a fig tree that remembers its purpose. To give a fig, to give plenty of figs about its neighbors, its community, and its environment. And it's much better than frog soup.